you all here. And we have such a good program that I cannot wait to talk about all our stories of the week. I want you to listen our experts who can illustrate our brain with their wisdom. Our dear Eileen, welcome, my dear, to your program. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here today, and I think you're going to have a powerful point of view with your story. On my other hand, I have our lovely Betsy. How are you, my dear?
No, I am very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. I really cannot wait to listen your position on your story, my dear Betty. And finally, but not least important, our sweet Andrea. How are you, darling?
Hello, hello. I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm so glad to have you here with us. And let's start with the first headline: Pasadena, a nest of toxicity. Well, let me tell you, it has been reported by local media that the mega corporation Monsters Incorporated got rid of 3 tons of toxic waste in a local river coming from the plant located in Pasadena. What is even worse is that people of the town have tried to help the company responsible for the damage that they have faced after consuming the water from it. The company made a statement saying that they weren't responsible for the damage and that as a charity work, they would help the town, and the citizens of Pasadena have sued the company for over $300 million in damages and aggravations. The case is already being reviewed in court and they're waiting for the trial. Well, I think the problem with all of these companies is that they never want to take responsibilities for the damage that they have caused, and the people pay always the consequences. These citizens, the citizens of Pasadena, need to collaborate together if they want the company to be responsible and to take the responsibility for the illness and the damages to the river. Well, anyway, now it's time to go for a commercial.
This program is sponsored by Hemlock. Hemlock creates vegan, ecological, and ethical bags and accessories. For this, it uses ecological and toxic-free materials, respecting animal life in all its forms and paying fairly to all his collaborators through the process. Thank you, Hemlock, for supporting this program.
And we are all back and we are all so excited to listen your story, my dear Eileen. What you got?
Of course. A new study suggests that the Amazon forest is now making climate change worse. For years, scientists have been researching the Amazon rainforest's ability to absorb CO2 since it's one of the largest in the world. Mining, logging, oil drilling, and cattle ranching are some of the human activities that have been changing the composition of the forest for years. Now, scientists suggest that all of these activities plus the forest's natural production of methane and other greenhouses might be causing more harm than good. Actually, about 3.5% of the global methane emissions come naturally from its trees. If one thing is certain, scientists state, is that Amazon deforestation has to stop immediately. We can still reverse the change if we reduce significantly the rate at which we are clearing the forest. Otherwise, it might be impossible to restore the balance. Other practices that have to be regulated immediately include dam building and coal mining. Deforestation in Brazil has grown exponentially in the last 10 years. Just in 2020, it increased by 10% from the previous year. The worst is, all of these human activities have changed completely the balance of the rainforest and have worsened the effect it has on global warming. Between floods and droughts, the forest flora has changed drastically, making it hard to combat climate change. We have to look into this problem now if we want to reduce global warming. To me, this is one of the most worrying situations I've heard in a while. We all know how urgent our situation is when it comes to global warming, since we've been hurting the environment for so long. Now, knowing that one of the greatest aids we have may actually be contributing to global warming makes me afraid of what the future may be. As Jordi said, we really need to hold these mega corporations accountable for the imbalance they have caused to the planet.
That's totally. I am so agree. I agree with you a lot. Now it is time to listen Andrea's story. Let's see what you got.
Now, to continue with the topic of climate change, a total of 135 companies operating in Mexico have been evaluated by Worldwide Fund regarding their commitment to combat climate change, with the aim of inviting them to improve their actions to contribute the fulfillment of the national greenhouse reduction goals. The study named The Best from Earth 2021 analyzed public information of 135 companies whose annual sales are the highest in the whole country and have bigger impact in the people. The study shows that most of the companies analyzed have a poor performance in terms of transparency, actions, and commitments to combat climate change on the scale indicated by the science. Mexico is one of the 10 countries with the highest greenhouse emission in the world, and it has committed to reduce between 22% and 36% of its emission by 2030. It is essential that companies in Mexico recognize the urgency of ensuring reporting, establish goals, and actions at the required scale, as well as taking advantage of opportunities to generate economic gains and jobs in the context of a green economy, commented Elizabeth Acosta, Deputy Director of Climate Change and Energy at Worldwide Fund at Mexico. With that, I hope that we begin to be aware of what the companies we consume products do to take care of our planet.
Well, what a challenge it is. Now it's time to go for commercials, and we'll be right back.
We'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Wawa, an incredible air-friendly fashion brand. Wawa makes 100% organic t-shirts dyed with water-based inks, which reduce 91% of water waste. They are a vegan, cruelty-free brand which uses plant-based packaging and donates a piece of clothing to a person in need with each purchase. Thank you, Wawa, for sponsoring this episode.
Thank you so much, Wawa. And finally, the last story of this week is the one in charge of our dear Betty. Betty, what you got for us?
Of the many truths of climate change, the rise of sea level is and will certainly be one of the most impactful, making hundreds of thousands of square miles of coastlines uninhabitable and potentially displacing over 100 million people worldwide by the end of the century. The global rise in sea level from melting ice and warming oceans from 19th to 20th led to a rate that's more than twice the average for the years 0 to 18, the most significant change according to the study in the journal Nature Communications. Sea level rise stemming from climate change threatens to permanently inundate low-lying islands, cities, and lands. It also heightens their vulnerability to flooding and damage from coastal and other storms. From my point of view, sea level will be a bigger problem sooner than we think. It is not surprising that the entire island will be underwater due to this problem, and we are the cause of this. Even Tabasco could disappear someday. The worst thing is that we are doing nothing to prevent this from happening, and there are many species that are being left homeless due to the melting of glaciers, species that are suffering and we are not aware. I think it's okay to start taking small actions on our own, but we must be many people doing it, so the change will be reflected. We're still on time.
And on that note, we have reached the end of the program. We hope you had a great time and are more aware of the world's greatest ecological problems. Tune in next week for more relevant news and remember to stay green. Thank you so much.